It's not possible to overstate the power of relationships. We just touched on a few things here.
I always wanted to create a place that I want to work, right? I spent a ton of time there.
Hey Restorers, thanks for checking out this episode of the Restoration Masterclass Season 3 on Power Skills. Season 3, right? Yes, this is Season 3. I can't believe that we're that far into it. So Power Skills are what we're talking about this season, which is really just a fancy way of talking about soft skills, but soft skills doesn't sound nearly as exciting. So we are bringing in different guests this year to talk about their different power skills and how you can help kind of leverage these power skills in your world. So this season is sponsored by Answer Force. I sometimes have Mandy co-hosting here with me. She's not with me on this episode, but you can check out other episodes that she's doing off on her own as well, bringing in different people to her side of the conversation. So we have a lot going on with the Masterclass series this year, which is very exciting. So I am excited to be joined by Jeff Jones, who's the Director of Sales and Marketing at Violand Management Associates. And one of his power skills is networking. Gosh darn it, this man knows how to network, and he has networked the crap out of me, introducing me to other people as well. And I would say that a good chunk of the people that I know in the industry are thanks to Jeff. And so he is somebody that really understands how to go to trade shows and go to events and have fruitful conversations with other people, follow up on those conversations, all of those things. He and Mandy even co-wrote an article last year called Networking Beautiful to help people understand how to effectively network at events. So that was a very long-winded introduction. So Jeff, I'm going to toss it to you to have you introduce yourself a little bit and share a little bit about your background in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, for 12 years now, been with Violand, Director of Sales and Marketing. I have attended more trade shows than I'll ever want to remember. And my very first one was 2012 out in Vegas. I knew two other people when I got to that show, and they were the two guys at the booth with me. So they basically said, hey, we paid to bring you out here. Go meet people. And they just cut me loose and sent me off into the woods to get lost and figure out my way back. And so I've been able to try and build my own personal network off of that show and so many others over the years. And these are just skills that I've learned or people have taught me as I've gone along the way that I've tried to pass on to others just to make these shows a lot more fun, whether it's your first show or it's your 100th show. All this still works, and it brings out a little bit more enjoyment for you and everybody who participates in them.
Okay, so before we dive into the meat of networking and how to be successful, do you consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert or an ambivert? Because I think that makes a difference and people will like hearing where you come from.
When I was younger, I would definitely say extrovert. I would not say that anymore. I would say that middle one, but most of the time it's going to be a lot more introverted. And as I get older, I get a little more grumpy every day. So I think that I get a little more older and tired, and sometimes you just want to take a little bit easier, but with my job, you can't always. So you've got to be able to get out there and get the most of it. And a lot of networking is the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it.
That's right. Yes. Okay. So, all right. So for everybody listening, you are hearing this from an introvert. So don't listen to this interview as if this is an extrovert who is running into a room full of people, happy as a clam, and thinks this is the best thing ever. But, Jeff does great at it. And he enjoys being with people, but I am the same way. I probably come off more as an extrovert, but I really am more on the introverted side. And it does take energy and preparation to get yourself out there. So, okay, Jeff, share some of your biggest tips for ahead of maybe a trade show. Like, we're recording this just before RIA. So let's say somebody new going to RIA has never been there before. What are some tips or things that you would recommend that they do prior to going to the show to prepare themselves to network there?
Absolutely. There's two major things that I would highly recommend that you do. Number one, study the schedule. For all of the shows, especially the RIA show, that schedule is out there in advance. The speakers are out there in advance, and take a look at the ones that you definitely want to attend. Do not go in there with the expectation that you're going to attend every single session, but find the ones that are the most important to you. Find out the topics that they're going to be discussing while they're there. Then go find out if these groups have Facebook pages. And if they do, who's commenting a lot on these Facebook pages? And let's take the RIA one, for instance. If you go on the RIA Facebook page, you're going to see Jeff Moore, and you're going to see Michelle, and you're going to see myself, and you're going to see a lot of other people that are constantly adding content on there. Reach out to them then through LinkedIn and say, hey, I saw that you're active in the RIA. I'm wondering, are you going to be at the show? If so, can we just meet up and get a cup of coffee? And then contact people from the RIA or when you first check in and tell them the reasons why you're coming. Hey, one of my major objectives this year is to start a contents division. I would love to talk to experts at this show who have strong contents division. Can you point me in the right direction? I guarantee you they will. They love that. And so have a plan when you go in on that, and don't expect to meet everybody, but put it in your mind that it's okay to go up and talk to people and have questions prepared and have the information that you're looking for.
Do you have a recommended set of questions? Do you have questions that you go into a big room with instead of, we've heard this from other coaches as well, like Jim Ryerson, like don't just go in with like how are you? Here's the weather. So what do you recommend doing to prime the conversation?
Yeah, the first question you're probably going to ask somebody is, hey, where are you from? And that's just a polite, welcoming question. But if you go into just that boring yes, no questions after that, you're not going to gain any information. People absolutely love talking about themselves. Give them an opportunity to do it. It's being polite, but you do it in a really unique way. So set the expectation of, hey, I heard that you're really good at contents, and I'd love to learn about contents. Can you do me a favor? Can you tell me a little bit about how you built your contents division and what you've done right and what you wish you would have known? And those little words of, can you do me a favor, go an awful long way into building trust. And there's this way that we're just all wired that if you ask somebody to do a favor, no matter the size of it, they're automatically going to trust you more on behalf of that. You're not asking them to perform open heart surgery on your firstborn. You're asking them to tell them a little bit about how you started a contents division. Of course, they're going to do that. Now they have an opportunity to be seen as an expert. They get to talk about themselves and just be prepared to ask open-ended questions. And the most important part of this and the hardest skill, I think, to master in this is beyond asking the question, actively listening. Because a lot of times you're asking that question and then waiting for them to stop talking to ask another question. And we're not hearing what they're saying. So spend as much time on actively listening as you do on every other part of it.
Okay, so let's say I've been actively listening to this person for about half an hour, and I'm really thinking I would really like to move on and talk to other people as well. I've had a great time with this person, but it's really time to move on. What is a gracious way to do that? Do not use me as an example, because I think you might be tempted to. So do not use me as an example. How can you graciously step away and move on?
You're going to get into one or two of these conversations. We call them time sucks at every single show. Body language is a big piece of that. Use the body language, open up away from them, to start to set again that expectation of okay, this is coming to an end. And when you're done, let them know. Say, hey, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Extend your hand, firm handshake, eye contact. Let them know that the conversation is over, that you have an appointment or you have to use the restroom, and then you walk away. You say thanks. Make certain you've got their name. Make certain you've got their contact information. And if this conversation truly gave you value, take notes. Go somewhere, stop, take a little note on your device, or if you got pad and paper, get their name, their information. And if it's really, really valuable, send them a thank you note afterwards. And that goes a long way to not just the networking part, but starting to build an actual relationship with that person to where they'll take your call if you pick up the phone and call them again in the future.
Yes, perfect. Okay. And talk about
one of those time sucks. Pay attention to their body language too, because nobody don't do that. It's weird.
It is weird, and it gets really awkward and hard to walk. Yes, and then you feel rude no matter what you do. That is so true. Okay, and then talk a little bit about the role that vendors can play in helping you network. Like if there's somebody that you want to meet, or you meet a vendor, or you want to either way, like attendees can introduce you to vendors. So what role can vendors play in helping people network at an event?
Yeah, I use them all the time. Actually, I have a very good friend who's a vendor. We've attended a lot of the same shows over the last dozen years. And prior to each show, I will pick up the phone or he'll call me and we'll make a dinner together. And I'll invite 2-3 people that's outside of his regular circle. He'll invite 2-3 people that's outside of my regular circle, and we'll go do a dinner, and boom, you have instant networking that goes with that. If you don't have a relationship with somebody like that already in play, when you get to the show, there are going to be vendors there that you know that you're probably already doing business with or that you want to. And think about it. The Sunbelts of the world, the John Dons, the Phoenix, they know just about everybody in the industry. So go up and say, hey, can you do me a favor? I'm looking to have a contents division. Which one of your clients here is really strong at contents? Can you introduce me to a few people? Of course they're here to help. I love it when people come up to our booth and ask for something like that. So more than happy to introduce you to anybody that I know. If I don't even know somebody, I can at least point you in the right direction so that we can start getting there. I can call that person over to our booths. If it's, if you're really introverted and you don't want to go up and make that introduction on your own, I'm more than happy to do that. So use vendors, rely on vendors. Half the time, vendors are standing around looking at the guy next to them the entire show anyways. So give them something to do.
Yes, true. Okay, and what do you recommend for people who are looking at the agenda going, this is really overwhelming. I don't know where to go to network. I don't know what's going to be most effective. I maybe don't have the energy for all of it. What should I do that's the most fruitful? Especially because, you mentioned dinners. There are people also that like there's evening receptions and then there's people that go to dinner and there's these after parties and there's all of these different things to choose from. How do you wade through that?
Yeah, shows are designed to build networking into it because in every show that you do and you read the feedback when it comes back, more networking, more networking, more networking, not more networking, it's better networking. So the time that you're going to get that are going to be breakfast because the show's 3/4 of it are dead, especially if it's the second night or the third night. 3/4 of that breakfast room is empty because people are just rolling out of bed. So that's a good time to get down there and talk to people who are very serious about building their Rolodex and building their business, the lunches, the dinners. The hotel bar is an outstanding place to go. And folks, nobody cares if you're having a water or a Diet Coke or a bourbon. Nobody notices. Nobody cares. If you want to go down there and have a beer, great. If you want to go down there and just hang out, great. But that's where a lot of conversations are taking place. And here's kind of a trick with somebody since I've become more introverted as I've gotten older, if I go down there and I see somebody who is just kind of standing by themselves and you could say, okay, that's another introvert. That's a good person to walk up and just give them space, keep your energy a little bit lower, but have a conversation with them because they want to talk to somebody. They just don't want to be the one that has to initiate the conversation versus if you go in and you see a big group of people being very boisterous and outgoing, they're probably experts and they're all talking about how great and wonderful they are. And that's fine. Don't step into the middle of the circle and start telling them how great you are. Work your way in there and say, hey, wow, this is an interesting conversation. Can you guys do me a favor? Can I just sort of listen in here? This is the reason I came to the show is to learn stuff like this. They're going to let you in. So understand the audience when you go down there so you know your role in that conversation and how to make it more comfortable for everybody else around you.
Yes. Okay. All right. So then maybe one of the last steps of this, after the show's done, you've been going at it for several days. You're tired when you get home. You have other work on your plate because you haven't worked in 3 days, although you've been working 24 hours a day for the last 3 days. It's really easy to let those business cards go to the side, those conversations go to the side. You don't do any sort of follow-up, let those relationships slide. So what do you recommend doing, or what's your habit when you get back from a show to know, okay, this was my goal, I met these people, I want to follow up. How do you keep yourself accountable for that so that that's not a wasted effort?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you the very first thing I do when I get home from a show, right before I walk through that door, is I figuratively drop the bag because I've been gone for 3-4 days and I've got family at home and they don't want to hear about the show. And quite honestly, I don't want to talk about the show because I'm exhausted. So first thing I'm going to do is leave the show and I'm going to walk in and I'm going to be husband. I'm going to be dad again. But the next morning when you put your big boy pants back on and you go back to work, then on your calendar, you should have time that is blocked off. And you have the notes that you've already prepared. You've got that information. LinkedIn is a tremendous place to go immediately. And you start sending that information out. You can send the handwritten notes out. You can start sending calendar invites out. Now, remember, everybody's just getting back from that show. Everybody is swamped. So you may want to give it a few days to relax, but don't give it more than a week because out of sight, out of mind. But you have to dedicate the time to follow up, or all you did was put a whole bunch of hooks in the water and let fish catch, take the bite and never bothered to reel them into the boat. So if you're going to take their time at the show, you owe it to them to follow up on the back end as well.
Yes, perfect. Okay, Jeff, well, thank you very much for all of your wisdom on networking. Anything else that you want to share?
No, just looking forward to seeing everybody at this show and so many other shows that will be going on this year. And these events are a lot of fun. You should leave with more excitement and energy than you came to the show with. And at the end of the day, that's the goal, the education, the networking, and you'll get out of it what you get into it. And here's something else. So if you go to the RIA show this year, stop by the booth of RIA and sign up for a committee and volunteer. That is the best networking you will ever do in your entire life, is serving on a committee at the RIA.
Yes, I totally agree with that. All right. Well, thank you, Jeff. I will see you next week. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.